And share my screen. That's clever. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, 40 people in the class. We had 42, we're at 40. 15 participants. I think that's about par for the course. I think that's how this normally goes. These lectures are going to be recorded and I will post them on the Canvas site. And I'm not sure how this will work. So this is a trial week, and I'm assuming 3 lectures per week, but I honestly don't think we're going to need that many. I think we're going to need 2 lectures per week is probably how that's going to go. I'll keep them on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday time frame, and we'll periodically poll the group to find out good times, that kind of thing. So if this time works for you guys, but we find a better time frame for other people, then we'll modify it. The trick, of course, is I don't want to interfere with any face-to-face classes you guys are taking, and I need to stress that if you're taking a face-to-face class and it conflicts with any lectures that we have here, your face-to-face does take precedence. Go to that class, because you don't have any other way to get that information, whereas you have optional ways to get the information here. Posting everything in terms of modules. And you've seen this. A lot of you guys have already participated in this. Every module has just a list of what you're supposed to know by the time you're done. That's kind of a throwaway page when you're going through it the first time. But when you're done, go back to it and ask yourself, you know, hey, do I really know this stuff? And if not, then, you know, to take a chance to review some material or shoot me a question. What I would like to do is have discussions opened. I was really pleased with the amount of activity we got in the discussions so far. I don't know if I should keep those discussions separate or tie them to the modules. So maybe tying them to the modules is a good idea. What do you guys think? Each module should have a discussion board allocated to it? Yes, no?
I like that idea.
Yeah, I have a class that's doing that. It's working out pretty well for us.
Okay.
So far.
Keeps everything organized, so that's...
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Keep everything in their little box, right? And then in addition, I'll have just, oh my God, help me kind of discussion sections open also, you know, generically. As well as those questions that I'm asking you. I intend to do that throughout the semester, not every week, but regularly. And again, I encourage you to take part in those. And part of that is, since we're not in a physical classroom, it's harder for you guys to feel like you're in a classroom and to interact with other students like you would normally. You know how normally you sit down next to somebody first day of class, you may or may not know who they are. By the end of the semester, you guys have talked over a lot of stuff and built some sense of community, or sense that you're not alone in the world, right? So trying to duplicate some of that. Okay, I'll go ahead and go through the course introduction lecture today, because I think we can cover languages and grammars Friday and Monday, and then just reserve following Wednesday and Friday for examples and questions during the lecture time, almost more like a tutorial. And I'll have assignments for the module 1, no assignments for module 0, and assignments for module 1, rather than having a test on the material, 2 short assignments. And Those will be due, one of them is due like next Friday and one the following Monday, that kind of thing. So at the end of each module, basically. Each module has a quiz. You've already taken those quizzes. A lot of you have. The quiz is designed to be stupid simple. It's basically, look, did you guys even look at this stuff? You know, that kind of question. So but you're not going to have a, hopefully not have a lot of challenges as long as you're honestly looking at the course material. The framing of the course material is going to be the same. I'll have the slides that I'm using. Will this work? It's thinking. The slides that I'm using, I have some additional notes that are in a more textbook-like format, and then the videos themselves. I'm trying to keep the videos short. First of all, listening to someone walk through slides like that is, in my opinion, a miserable experience. And yeah, I'm getting some nods there. Yeah, it's miserable. So one of the things I'm doing is rather than have like one 45 or 50-minute lecture, knock it down into shorter segments. And that way you can, you know, take it in bite-sized pieces. And I don't know, you guys, a lot of students tell me they prefer videos, or, you know, they really like YouTube University. I don't know how in the heck you guys find, oh, wait a minute, when did that particular topic come up? Where is it in the video? I don't know how you find that. But breaking it down into smaller sections hopefully will help with that. That's one reason I'm old, I like books, right? I like books because I can go back and say, wait a minute, wasn't that in this chapter? And go find the thing I'm looking for. Okay, communication for the course. Please use Canvas. If it's course related, Canvas. If I'm your advisor or you have some other questions or you want to get my input on some other course you want to take or something like that, then use email. But everything else, please use Canvas. I have historically been slow in turning around grading for this class, so I have hired I'm in the process of hiring a grader. And so the grader, I believe, will be Michael Fornito, who I think most of you know. And if you have questions about the grading, start with him. Again, go through Canvas, but start with him. And then if you two can't resolve it, then get me involved. There's a couple of reports during the semester, and I'll be responsible for those reports. Because writing is important, and the more we get more opportunities to force you guys to write, the better off we are. If you have questions at any time, just unmute yourself and ask the question. Okay, we're up to 20 students. That's great. That's great. Okay, let me go to the slides here. Tell me if you can't see this stuff. I think you can see this stuff. That's the wrong slide, though. That's the next section. Let's start with 225, 332. There we go. Okay, module 00 is visible? You're seeing,
Yes.
You are seeing stuff, good. Okay, I'm not talking in the air. So on CS225, the first question I asked was, why do computer scientists start counting at 0? And about half the students were aware of what arrays were and how arrays work in most programming languages in the indexing. Okay, so here's our outcomes. Again, skip through those, but at the end you should go back to these, and if you're confused about any of it, that's a good time to ask a question. Remind me, I'm going to remind myself, open up a discussion session for the modules. Okay. One good thing about this class, you guys are mature students. You've already been through this process many times, about 30 or 40 times by now. And so you're pretty well aware of how Canvas is going to work. And again, if you have confusions, let me know. The major themes of the course: formal language theory, computation and computability, and programming paradigms. Now, if you read the course catalog description, the formal language theory, the computation and computability really isn't mentioned much in there. I inherited this course 13 years ago, and it was almost all, here's how you do an if statement in Ruby. Here's how you do an if statement in some other language. Here's how you do an if statement in C. And I thought, man, that's something that is too simplistic for an upper level university course. That's, you know how to do that. You guys, most of you guys, or a lot of you guys have already learned Python, or you have some aspect of Python without taking any courses where you were taught that formally, because you know how to go online and find tutorials about languages. You're good at that. So I thought this course should have a little more. So I emphasized a little bit more the formal language theory and the computation computability aspects. If we were in a different university, the whole course would be that. There would be no programming exercises whatsoever. It would be all theory. So I tried to keep a blend of the two things. The reason that I'm focusing on the formal language and computation computability discussions is because of two things. One is, when you are writing formal requirements in doing provably correct software, you need that stuff. It's helpful to have that stuff in the back of your mind. There are techniques for doing software verification and validation and quality assurance that are completely formal. They're called model-based quality assurance techniques. So know that that stuff is out there. In fact, some of you are taking or will have to take SE410, and that's a big part of SE410, right? Software modeling. Well, what does modeling mean? It means you formalize it. The other reason is that, as we saw by that first discussion question, people are often confusing the usage of something with the definition of something. And we'll find at least one more example as we go through the course regarding computation. And that can, basically it can muck you up when you're trying to create software, because what it will do is you get bogged down in the details and you forget what you're actually doing. So if we say, oh, a language is a set of strings, pull back. Okay, I'm trying to develop software and it has to do this and it has to do that. And oh my gosh, there's all these details. Yeah, that may be true, but pull back to the heart of what you're doing. You're basically creating a set of strings. And as long as you remember that simple definition, sometimes that can clarify your thought in actually creating the product. We talk about computation and computability. If our computer science program is growing and growing and growing, of the 4 programs in the EECS department. By the way, we changed our name from XE to EECS. You may or may not know that. Computer science is the largest program, I believe, right now in the EECS department of the 4 programs. So if we're going to be graduating computer scientists, maybe they should know what computation and computability is about and what the definitions of computability are. Those definitions were provided for us in parallel by a guy named Alonzo Church, who you probably have not heard of, and a guy named Alan Turing, who you probably have heard of. And they both came to the same conclusion using different paths. We'll discuss both paths in this course. And that happened in the mid-30s, like 1936, 1937. Those definitions are still valid today. They haven't changed. And then programming paradigms. Again, at some point, if you're going to be hired to do some kind of software, and I'll argue that almost no matter what job you get, you're going to be doing some kind of software these days. The more tools you have in your toolbox, the better off you are. So far, I think everyone who's taken this course, if you followed the prereqs appropriately, have been exposed to some kind of an imperative or procedural language like MATLAB, or the way you use C++ and CS332 where basically, okay, what's the programming paradigm for that? Oh, you start at the top and you do this line of code and this line of code and this line of code, and you just go down. using if, then, else's and loops and all that other stuff. But basically it's a top to bottom imperative meaning commanding, or procedural meaning top to bottom procedure. You've been exposed to that. Most of you then have also been exposed to object-oriented program, which is the paradigm that was introduced in this university in CS332. And so you know what objects are about. But there are other paradigms out there. The third biggest paradigm is called functional. And most of you have not been exposed in any detail to the functional paradigm. So this course will give you a fairly good introduction to that. We cannot do in depth, right? You can take an entire, just like you took an entire course in the imperative and an entire course in object-oriented. Actually, software engineers are taking multiple courses in object-oriented. You can take multiple courses in functional. So this will give you another tool in your toolbox. Most programming languages these days do cross paradigms. They do support outside of the box, if you will. It's hard to find a purely object-oriented language. It's hard to find a purely functional language. Again, if you, what paradigm is Python, by the way? Those of you that are Python programmers.
Isn't it object-oriented?
And?
I consider Python everything.
Everything, yeah, it's everything. Yeah, it will directly support, it directly supports object-oriented. And Chris, most people do use the object-oriented techniques there, but it also directly supports imperative. And the dirty little secret that most people don't use because they don't know about it is it directly supports functional. So again, if you really want to use Python to its fullest extent, and we all know that's becoming a more popular programming language, you may as well know everything about it, or about the underlying foundations to it. Was that you, Casey?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, good. Thank you for speaking up. Even in class, it's hard to get you to speak up. Not just you, I mean students in general. And it's going to be interesting to see if you feel safer in your own rooms, right? You have a good conversation going on. Okay, let's get to the more mundane details, course outcomes. Let's skip those, but periodically I might remind you of those. And at the end of the semester, maybe take a walk through that, see what you think. We'll have our online times like this. And like I said, this is an experiment for a while, so we'll figure out what works for us. That's the trick, right? We don't have to follow a rule. We have to do what works for us. Let's embrace the agile philosophy, right? Results matter more than processes do. I'll have no formal office hours, but basically I'm available all the time via Canvas if we need to set something up where a Zoom meeting works out. That's fine. The university says, by the way, no face-to-face office hours this semester. And I will probably not be on campus at all this semester, maybe a couple of times when I absolutely have to. So get a hold of me virtually. Periodically, I will let you know, hey, I'm going to be, working on stuff at home from 6 to 8. So I'm just going to hang out in Zoom, and here's the link if you need to stop by and ask questions. Canvas discussions let me think, I don't want to cross my classes. Yeah, Canvas discussions, I don't believe there are any that are graded here, but I'm just trying to get you to think about some of these topics and encourage you to discuss with each other and respectfully argue with each other. Canvas assignments, so instead of having, I usually have 3 exams in this class, and instead of 3 exams, I've kind of broke them up into 6 assignments. So in addition to the other assignments, I forget how many there are, but there's X number of assignments, relatively small stakes. 4 programming assignments, so you do get to program. That's the good news. Most people like that. Here's the bad news. 3 of them are in the functional programming paradigm. So sometimes that's the first one of those. Sometimes frustrates students. Usually every semester, I get a high mix. Some people leave this course and they still don't know what the heck functional is about. Some people pick it up relatively quickly. And every now and then, some people go nuts over it. We had a student quite a few years ago now, after this course, that just fell in love with the functional paradigm, went on and did his master's program and did some really sophisticated programming using a functional programming language called Haskell, which is quite popular, by the way. And then 2 small reports. The idea of the reports is you should be able to do them, you know, relatively quickly. These aren't semester-long projects, but I'm really going to stress your writing quality. Really push you on writing quality. Our schedule, everything's broken down into modules. So we're going to spend 2 weeks on this. And I don't think we have 2 weeks of worth of full lecture, like I said. I think Friday and Monday we can cover this topic. And then Wednesday and Friday of next week, I'll make myself available probably during this time slot. Then we'll do, you know, tutorials, examples, that kind of thing. As you know, the university, well, I hope you know, the university has changed all of the holidays that we normally get off. And their goal was, this yellow boxes down on the bottom here, their goal was once you leave for Thanksgiving break, you don't come back. And, you know, obviously the goal there was, in a normal semester, everybody leaves for Thanksgiving holiday, everybody comes back for 1 more week, and we all get the flu. And this time it's not the flu. So they're trying to protect us by, you know, once you have a big travel day, protect the university and protect other students by not having you come back. But to do that, they had to sacrifice the holidays early in the semester. So the only one we have is the Veterans Day. I've got 10 modules. So that means probably 12 different assignments. Most modules will have 1 assignment and some will have 2. I'll have to check my schedule. Let me check real quick. I'll show you what my working schedule looks like here. Okay, so for module 1, I've got 2, module 3 only has 1, 4 only has 1, 5 has 2. Yeah, so what is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, yeah, 11 assignments. 1 short report in module 7, 1 short report in module 10, everything via Zoom.
Professor Garfield?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Ask it.
Are we meeting virtually after the 25th of November?
I don't know. No, and the reason is that since there's, you know, it literally says no class, right? So if I require that you guys attend the lecture, then I'll get in trouble. Okay. So no, but that doesn't mean I'm going to abandon you guys, right? So I'm sure I'll have, okay, look, I'm going to be on Zoom, you know, noon to 2 or whatever. If you have questions or comments, you know, come and talk to me. And I've also got things that are due during those study days, because normally when we only have 1 study day semester, it is really forbidden for a faculty member to require you to have something turned in that day, because it's supposed to be reserved for studying. But my understanding of this grouping is they're calling them study days, but it's actually times for finished people write, you know, finishing up their assignments, finishing their writings, that kind of thing.
Like the reports?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's that last report, and that's where the larger programming assignments come into. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
If anyone's doing, there's no final in this class, and if anyone's doing a final, they have to do it virtually, and I think they have to do it on, you know, some kind of assigned time slot or something like that. Okay, so that's the end of the overview for the course. Don't you love that? So, do we have questions about how the course will be run? This is the best time to ask them.
I have a question on where the assignments will be put up. So you said for module 1, there'll be 2.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if we go on like modules, will those assignments pop up, or do
Yes.
we have to?
So what I have now is each module has an outcome section, and then the actual content, and then the quiz that says, hey, did you at least look at this stuff? The additional resources page. And then I'll add, after that, I'll have a 5 and possibly a 6 where the assignments are, yes.
Okay, thank you.
To add those for module 1, yeah. And just for, Yara, you're in Kuwait, is this true?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, okay. And just for bragging rights, I think Yara got the closest to the answer on the first discussion question. So now you guys know where to go for help if you need help. Kuwait. Go. Okay. And the second one, I don't know if Lynn's online. I think Lynn got the second question pretty quickly. And again, that's all bragging rights. There's nothing wrong with being justifiably proud of something you did well. All right. Any other questions? Please have more.
What's your policy on late work with things online and the chaos with the virus?
Good question. That's a good question. I don't know. How's that for an answer? So in classes like CS332, I'm pretty strict about that, at least for the homeworks. And so I think what I'm going to say is let's accept late homework at half credit, which is what kind of my standard policy. So late homework, half credit. If there's unusual circumstances that you tell people about ahead of time, then that can be worked around. Yeah, so normally it's kind of weird. In an online situation, and in particular in this situation, everyone's having it's not nearly as chaotic as it was in the spring, or at least it doesn't feel as chaotic as it was in the spring. So in the spring, I didn't know what people's situations were, and I couldn't punish them if they didn't have broadband access, so I got pretty lax about that. But this fall, since we've got more time to think through it, I think we can be fairly rigid with the deadlines. But let's say late homework, half credit. Now, always I have to make allowances for, I got in a car crash and they wouldn't let me post my homework from the emergency room, or, when I was in a coma, that kind of thing. So those kinds of allowances always exist. But again, knowing ahead of time, tell people ahead of time that you might be a day or two late, that clears the path. Does that answer the question?
Yep, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Who was that, by the way? Adam?
Yep.
Okay. More. Okay. I'm not going to roll into the. Let me review one thing here. Okay. I'm not going to roll into this material yet. Let's save that for a clean start. But let me review again what you should expect. If you go into the modules, what you should see is I've got the slides, and you guys have taken enough courses and done enough presentation to know how slides work. They don't give all the information. They give a summary of the information, and then the speaker is supposed to flesh that out. But if you look at, I do want to show you one thing while we're here. But if you look at, I've got PDFs that actually go through in detail, more like textbook format, right? So there's your long form notes. Got all the definitions. Followed up with discussion. And these are pretty complete. I had to do this as an independent study for a student over the summer, so I was able to get a pretty good set of notes going. And then each one will also have example problems, and the examples are worked out. So there's our examples worked out, and then practice problems. And the goal with these is, I'm not going to give you the answers for these, and then you should be able to work them out. And if you're in the discussion section for the module, maybe that's a good place to say, hey, what about example problem 3? And while we're on the topic, and going back to the assignments, my expectation, and if this is wrong, let me know right away, okay? You'll let me know with the first assignment. But when I do a discussion or an announcement or something like that, this is one place where Canvas did a great job. And man, how often can you say software did a good job? If you want to, we're going to use a lot of Greek letters and weird notation, like every formal system does. But right here is insert math equation. And I'm going to provide you a link to a site called a site that deals with a programmer called LaTeX. LaTeX is built to do math. So if I click in, do this equation, you can do it by plugging in, by going up onto the tabs, finding the symbol you want and plugging it in and all that good stuff. But there's a much easier way. You can use LaTeX directly in here. So if I say lambda / lambda, it comes up like lambda. / beta comes up like beta. So I can do things like, let me see, I wanted to do slash sigma. It gives me capital sigma. And you'll see that we do that kind of thing is in the notes. If you look through the notes, sigma equals AB. You can do that directly. And the only bad thing is when you insert the equation, it shows up as a figure, so you can't really edit it very much. It's an image. But what I'm expecting is this. I'm expecting that you can actually do your homework, even with the odd notation, directly in the response box. I don't think you need to write it down on paper and scan it or take a picture of it or anything like that. My belief right now, which may be wrong, and you'll tell me, is that you can do your editing right there in the response box. So that's my hope. They did a really good job supporting that. And I'll give you, like I said, a link to the LaTeX page, and you'll see that there is no math equation that is out of bounds for LaTeX. You can do all of your homework that way.
So my only issue with that is I've had this problem in the past where if I'm writing out a long response, the page will sometimes refresh and it'll delete it completely. So because there is no procedural saving or anything like that.
Okay, yeah, they don't do like auto saves and stuff. Okay, in that case, if you're doing a long response, here's what I always do, because yeah, I've suffered that fate also. And what I normally do is I'll take a different product, as long as I'm not doing notation like this. I'll take a different product like Notepad. I love Notepad, and of course Microsoft hides it from you. I'll type everything that I need to in text in Notepad and then cut and paste it in. And that way, if I lose it, I still have it in Notepad or Word or whatever you want. So that's my solution to that, is to construct it out of bounds. Now, again, if you're doing the part that I just showed you using the notation system and using LaTeX, you can't really get away with that as well. But that's what I would do. By the way, learning LaTeX is a hugely useful skill. All of these notes that I showed you a little bit ago, those PDFs, that was all created in LaTeX. Once you get used to it, it's really easy. As long as you're not doing super complicated stuff. I wrote my PhD dissertation in LaTeX, and we encourage our master's students here on campus to go in LaTeX too. There's another way we might be able to pull this off. I think that was Adam that was talking about that. You can go to, I'll put this in the links. You can go to overleaf.com, write everything in LaTeX. You get, I think, a real-time view of what you're doing, and then cut and paste the results back in. Okay. I'm straying off topic, so, and I know shorter is better. So what else? What other questions do we have?
I don't know if you asked or answered this already. I came in a little late. But as far as like office hours or tutoring, do you have anything like that?
Yeah, I'll have office hours. They're not going to be, I'm not anticipating regularly scheduled. So
Okay.
periodically say, okay, look, and again, always message me on Canvas if you have a question. And we'll have open discussion sections for each module. You can ask questions there. We have a grader. I believe we have a grader. We're still hiring them. And both myself and the grader periodically scan the discussion sessions, and then whoever's available jumps in to answer the question. And then I will have, like I said, a periodic synchronous office hours.
Okay.
And again, if it doesn't work, complain and I'll change it.
Okay.
Okay?
That works.
Yeah. Okay. What else?
Professor, we don't have a required text, but is there some source that you suggest if we want to look up additional information?
The problem is no. The answer is no. I have some really good online resources. So for instance, for the functional programming, we're going to use a language called Racket, which I would recommend you you can download and play with. And I believe I already put links in there. And there's a website called Beautiful Racket that, in my opinion, provides really good tutorials and introductions. The actual Racket site, it's called Dr. Racket, drracket.com, Dr. Racket, not spelling out doctor, drracket.com. No, I'm lying. It's called racket-lang.org. That's what it is. Anyway, the links are online. That's where you get the actual product, and the product is called Dr. Racket. And in my opinion, their tutorial is just lousy because it's like you have to know a year's worth of Racket to go through the tutorial. So there was too much stuff. They already want you to download additional graphics modules and things like that that are not core to what we need to do here. Whereas Beautiful Racket starts at the beginning and walks you through. Now the Racket-Lang website does have the official guides and syntax and things like that for Racket, but you can also find that on Beautiful Racket. So bottom line, no, I don't have a text per se, but I will be giving you additional resources that are websites. And also when we do Turing machines, I have found a set of notes from Professor Rojas from, I think, Cornell, and it's in PDF form that I'll post then too. And in my opinion, there's just no better explanation of how Turing machines work. So, you know, that kind of thing I'll make available to you. No text, but I will give you additional resources. The textbooks on this tend to be a little too terse and tense. If you really want the best textbook ever on this stuff, at least for the formal systems and formal languages, I can dig up the title of it. But it's a book that you'll want after you've had this course to review. It's a very difficult book to learn from, and it's famous for being really terse in its presentation of the material. More questions? Okay. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate everyone being here. More than half the class. I'm going to call that success. And I'll make sure this video, assuming the technology gods are kind, then I will have this recording saved. I'll post it on the course site. You know what I'm doing. I'm putting everything up on YouTube. So I have my own, personal YouTube channel, and I've made a playlist for CS332. So it'll go there, and then I embed the code, I embed it in our Canvas notes. So you can always go to, YouTube to find all the different lectures there, if you don't want to hunt and peck through the Canvas. Okay? Last chance for questions for today.
I had a question.
Excellent.
Is there a specific language you want us to do the programming assignments in, or is it just going to be a free,
Yes and no. So I'm having in functional, you absolutely must use Racket. And then For the other, what I do is for the last programming assignment is actually ask you to program the same thing twice. And one of those forms has to be functional, which means racket. The other form, usually I let students choose between imperative and or object-oriented. So you do the same programming solution twice, once say in an object-oriented way and once in a functional way. And the idea, of course, is to get you to think about how you actually approach the solution differently. Not just the coding, but the solution differently based on the paradigm that you're going to implement it in. Now, for the others in the past, I have not specified a language. But if I say, thou shalt do this as an object-oriented and also as a functional, then you can pick anything you want for the object-oriented, but you have to use the object-oriented paradigm. So if you do functional in Racket and then you use Python, but you do it functionally, that's not the intent of that assignment at all. So that wouldn't work. If I say, okay, you have to do it imperative, that's great. You can use Java, but don't use objects, right? You put everything, pretend it's imperative. That make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
What's your channel name on YouTube?
I don't know. Oh, KL Garfield, I think.
Thank you.
You can use the embedded link and find me too, right? Just go open it up on YouTube and I think you'll see my name then. Keep them coming. This is great. Okay, I'm going to cut this off then and let you guys go. Have a wonderful day. I intend to see you Friday at this same time, and we'll go ahead and start with the first section, which is talking about grammars and languages. Let's see, how do I stop this stuff? All right, I'm ending.
Thank you, Professor.
I think thank you guys. I think if I just end the session for everybody. There we go. I'm ending for everybody. Have a good day. I did it.